So good to be here with you all today. For those of you I've yet to meet, I'm Michelle Medrano. I have been a minister in this faith tradition since 1991. I currently live in Denver, Colorado, and serve at Mile High Church, and was the senior minister here for 17 years, from 1995 till 2013. So, yeah. Some of the best years of my life and ministry. It's so good to see so many familiar faces and new faces, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm going to be here today and next Sunday because I've got a two-part series. Well, I'm here because Reverend Karen is away, and she was kind enough, she and Leslie were kind enough to invite me back, and I'm very grateful to be back. And I want to do a series that's in alignment with this beautiful theme of infinite voices of truth. And so my series is called My Authentic Voice. And today we're talking about awakening our authentic voice. When I think about awakening my authentic voice, I think about a habit I had many years ago. I don't do it now, but I used to have the alarm go off, and I would almost habitually hit that like snooze button. Just 10 more minutes, just 10 more minutes. That's all I really need. Poop. And then it would go off again, and then I would hit the snooze button. 10 more minutes, just 10 more minutes. I just need 10 more minutes of sleep. And then I would hit it again and again until I might have actually overslept about an hour or so when I was a younger person. And it was a bad habit. I'm so happy that I broke that habit. And here's what I want to ask you today. When it comes to listening to that authentic voice that is at the core of who you are, that is calling you to your greatness, are you hitting that snooze alarm? Is there an alarm going off calling you to dreams, desires, goals, ways of expressing yourself in the world, and you hear it go off, but you just habitually reach over and pop that little snooze button? Just a little more sleep. Just a little more sleep. It's risky. It's scary. What if I don't want to wake up to that authentic voice? Well, consider me today your alarm. Hello. Because what I absolutely know is that within every being on this planet, right now, as always has been throughout the history of humanity, there are alarms going off, calling each one of us to be and do what we came here to be and do. Now, by this, I mean that there is an aspect of us that is at the core of us that is the very presence of the divine, that's absolutely aligned with who we are and what our greatest expression might be. I honestly don't know whether it was implanted in us before we got here. I don't know if we made intentions when we came here to do and be and express certain things. I just know from my own experience of myself and from all the humans that I've gotten to interact with on this planet that every one of us seems to have these deeply held desires within us to express ourselves in certain ways, to have certain experiences of love and connection, and to share ourselves in our world artistically and creatively, and that we habitually get caught up in the world of form and in perceptions about ourselves that are part of what we use to keep ourselves asleep to those deeper truths. Or we push them aside, or we brush them aside. We get caught up in the world of effects, and, oh, I could never do that because ... Just fill in the blank. I could never have that because I'm too ... I'm not ... You just fill in the blanks. We all have those things. Our excuses are us hitting that snooze alarm. Why we can't have what we want. We have them, the alarms that go off are often related to our painful past. Well, I haven't been able to make a business work up until now. What makes me think I could do it again? I did not succeed in my last relationship. What makes me think I could do it again? I've never been able to so far, ... and what makes me think I could do it again? My painful past often keeps me asleep to my greater yet to be, as Dr. Beckwith calls it. It's also the excuses and things that we see going on in our life that have to do with our habits of being. We're habitual beings, and we let our habits get in the way so often. Some of them are quite profound. We know that some of us struggle with addictions of things, substances that we take into our bodies, drugs, alcohol, food, that keep us numbed, sex, gaming, too much television. Can I say Bridgerton? Yeah. I'm not guilty of that at all. And it's not that some of that stuff is horribly bad in and of itself, because, Bridgerton's not bad, really, and neither is anything else. It's how we're using it. It's noticing and paying attention to, am I using these habits to distract myself from the work at hand? The holy work, the soul work, the divine work that is at hand, that is compelling me forward. Am I using things to push it aside? Habits of attention that cause me to just push that aside. And so it's important today to look at these and be aware of them and begin to consider how to stop pushing that snooze alarm. So I have 3 questions really today, 2 questions and 1 suggestion. The first question that I want to really deal with right away is, what is the will of God for me? So I've had a number of conversations with people recently who've tried to tell me, when it came to pursuing their dreams and goals, that it wasn't happening, wasn't manifesting. By the way, I like the lights like this because I can really see people, so I'm no complaints here. That their good was not happening because it must not be the will of God for them to have that good. That God must be withholding that good from them. God must be keeping them because it's not really their highest and best. And so I want to address that right away. What is the will of God for me? And I totally understand the question, because in our Judeo-Christian world, especially here in the West, and in the religions that often persist in the world that have that sense of duality, there's still this underlying sense that I'm here and God's there, and the big guy will tell me what to do. The guy in the sky will tell me what to do. The man up there with the beard and that kind of looks like Santa Claus. He doesn't wear red, but he's up there, and he will dictate to me what I'm to have, who I'm to be, what good will come to me, and I have no stake in the matter. I have no will of my own. I have no power at all. I am just here for the good of God. And we sing songs like that, and it can be confusing. I'm just here for God. We just sang it, right? I'm just here for God. What does that really mean, though? Because we don't believe in this teaching that there is a guy up there who's saying, yeah, here's your good. Oh, no, you don't get any today. You've been good. You have not. I'm giving you it all. You, not so much. There's not a guy up there that's doing that. There's not a guy up there that's going, you're an artist, you're an ice skater, you're an accountant. No, it's not. It's not like that. That would be just as silly as me standing here pointing like I just did, telling you all what you're supposed to do, and you all go, oh, okay, I will. Doesn't work like that. Does not work like that. So what do we mean when we talk about surrendering to that will of God and being present to the will of God? What I believe it really is about, and our teaching is about, as are many of the teachings on this planet that are dedicated to oneness and connectedness and the absolute expression of the divine in us and as us, is that there's an aspect of us that is the core of who we are, our soul, our essence, our highest self, that has within it, contained within it, the possibility of all the good that there could ever be. And that we have this unique way of being it and expressing it. We are the unity and we are the diversity. And this aspect of us, the more we can connect with it, the more we can be present to it, the more we can allow ourselves to feel ourselves as it in the world, the more we have that sense of synchronicity about what is ours to do, about what those dreams and desires of our life are that are calling us forward. But it's not about something out there saying, Here's your assignment. Any more than it is electricity being in the world and saying, I only want to light that light right there, but I don't want to light any other lights. It's not personal. There's no personal deity out there who is saying that other people are more special than anybody else. No personal deity out there giving us assignments. Rather, it's this beautiful synchronistic call of the soul that is at the essence of us. But it gets blocked and fogged, and it gets a sense of off-trackness because of our life experience, of our decisions, of our pain, of our personality, of what we think is possible. And what is happening for humans is that we're giving more attention to that stuff that's really at the surface than we are that core aspect of us. And that's where all our I could but I can't so I won't kind of conversation comes forth. And so what we have to learn to do is understand that one of our greatest assignments here on the planet, the one we all share, is get in touch with that core of who you are for the purpose of expressing the divine in your unique, profound way. We have a quote from Ernest Holmes. Ernest Holmes says to us, God's will for every person is happiness, peace, and joy. God's will for all creation is self-expression. Since creation is an expression of this invisible cause, which we call God, nor can it be considered to be anything else. This divine expression that is at the core of us. So we begin to access it through spiritual practice, through meditation, through the deep work that we do to remind ourselves of the truth of who we are and to allow that deepening sense of who we are to be in us, to be alive in us, and to stop hitting the snooze alarm on it and to start following it and start being, as my friend Reverend Karen taught me many years ago, obedient to it. It's the intuitive voice. When we say the intuitive voice, we're talking about that highest self of us. And it is activated by synchronicity. Synchronicity that shows itself to us. And we say, oh, a sign from God. No, a sign from me. A sign from my highest self showing me I'm on the right track. That's all it is. I mean, I don't want to say that's all it is, like that's no big deal, because a lot of us are wanting that. But it's not some burning bush in the desert like Moses saw necessarily, although sometimes it feels that way, right? It is us, being present to us, being awakened to us, and then following that. So the next question that we get to ask ourselves is, well, how do I know if that voice I'm hearing that's urging me to move forward is my inner voice or not? People ask me that a lot. How do I know? I was confused for many years because I had a father who was kind of a tyrant. He was a rageaholic and afraid all the time and yelled and screamed and barked orders. And as I grew up, I started noticing that the main way that I would talk to myself was, Michelle, stop that. You're such an idiot. Don't do that. Michelle, that energy. And one day I was like, oh, God, this is exhausting. Whose voice is this? Oh, yeah, it's my dad's voice. I don't want to be ruled by that voice. That voice is not serving me. So I had to forgive my father. I had to work hard to forgive my father and transform that sense of that voice so that I could begin to hear that deeper voice that was calling to me, to my unique expression in this world, to my God expression in this world. And then when I could do that, the voice of the divine at one point in me, as me, my inner voice, my highest self, called me to all sorts of great things, including what it is that I do for a living right now. It became so clear when I stopped barking orders at myself. So here's the distinctions of how do I know that that voice is my voice. So the first distinction is that it will always be a voice that is kind, gentle, a voice that's exciting. Now, when I say exciting, here's what I mean. Neurologically, there's not a huge difference between the feeling of excitement or nervousness, is there? Right? Some people will say, oh, I'm so nervous. And sometimes I'll say, could it be that you might be excited? Because they're similar feelings. And they fire off the same kind of expression in the body temple. And so keep in mind that a lot of times some very exciting idea comes forth. And I will admit and confess to you that when the exciting idea of ministry came forth in me when I was 18 years old, oh, I hit that snooze button so fast you couldn't believe it. Oh, no. Boom. Stupid idea. I'm walking away from that idea. And it just would not let me go. It just kept rising up every once in a while. And I'd hit the snooze button on it. And I'd run away from it. But eventually, as I did my work and allowed myself to hear my own self calling me to my work in the world, I stopped hitting the snooze button because I was nervous. Oftentimes, and I bet we all know this, those really great ideas about what is mine to do, oh, they make me feel nervous. And what if we could say, I'm excited about that. I'm feeling excited about that possibility. I don't know what to do with it, but I'm not going to hit the snooze on it. So it can be exciting. And I say whoosh in because it's not like that voice went, hello, Michelle, this is your inner voice. Maybe you should be a minister. Didn't happen like that. Not at all. It was more of a whoosh. Ah! That's what it was like. That's how it sounded, literally. Like, whoosh, ah, run, ah! So it whooshes in. It kind of shows up. It's like a lightning, that sort of thing. It just happens. And what I absolutely know, if you're seeking distinction, that inner voice is never cajoling. It never tries to scare you. It doesn't say, well, if you don't do this, your life will never be great. No, that is not that voice. It never manipulates. I remember years ago, this has always bothered me, a televangelist, I think it might have been Jimmy Swagger, and I'm not sure, on television saying that if his congregants didn't give him $8 million, he was going to be struck down by lightning or something crazy like that. That he was told, God told him this. That's manipulation, right? It's not only the manipulation of that inner voice, it's using that God told me I'm supposed to. I'm always skeptical about those things. And so pay attention, because your inner voice will never say, as long as you never touch alcohol again, I'll make sure blah, 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 blah. Doesn't work like that. God, that inner voice, that highest self of us, that God life in us, it doesn't need to manipulate us. That's usually some part of us that is wanting to express itself and trying to get us to do or be a certain way. And it will never sabotage us. If we are attempting to move forward, it's not like the obstacles that show up are sabotage. Often they are invitations that we have brought forth so that we can get clearer and stay on the path. It will never test us. It will never bring you a test and say, if you can pass the test, you can have the goodie. It doesn't work like that. And how I've learned to deal with those inner voices often is to talk back at them. I've even named my saboteur voice. Her name is Sabby. And when she comes up, I just talk with her. Hello, Sabby. So nice to hear from you today. Now go away. And so we have a conversation and a relationship. And so we can begin to distinguish and sense and get present to this inner voice. Then the next question becomes, well, how do I know and have confidence in my voice? How do I have confidence in the voice that I'm hearing? How do I create confidence? And I suggest that the first step is we get awakened. We start awake and we start watching and we start listening to our inner self and we start feeling and distinguishing our inner self for us. And then we do things to bring forth our confidence. And so I have a photo today of how to be confident. And the photo is of Wonder Woman. Yeah, we love Wonder Woman, don't we? It's a great image, and I like that image, but notice how she's standing. And this is not an accident. I came across some research done by a scientist a number of years ago. Her name is Amy Cuddy. She's a social psychologist, best-selling author, award-winning Harvard lecturer, and keynote speaker. She had a very powerful TED Talk about body language, and not just looking at other people and knowing about their body language, about our body language. She's very much into the mind-body connection in a very powerful way. And so I thought this was really amazing research. What she says is that this pose of the Wonder Woman pose is a pose of confidence. And so they brought subjects in at the school, and they experimented with them and had them stand in that power pose for 2 minutes, some of them. Some of them they didn't have stand at all. But look at, we know the difference between that and, right? You can see right here, this is not a very confident pose. I'm following my dreams. I love living my life. It's not the most confident pose, is it? I'm following my dreams. So they had them stand in a power pose, and then some people not do any kind of pose or even stand in a kind of a pose. And then, you'll love this, Jody, they had them work with gambling. Oh, did I just out you? Sorry. They had them work with gaming, and they noticed what kind of risks did people take based on how they stood in their power pose. And it was really fascinating. They said people who stood in their power pose had an 86% higher willingness to risk, which they translate to, if you're somebody who's thinking about life and making a big leap or taking a big jump or moving in a new direction, that the more confident you are, the more you have that neurologically in your beingness, the more likely you're actually to do it. And the people who didn't do the power pose had a 60% less chance of actually taking a risk, of trying something new, or they were very nervous and very stilted in their attempts to move forward. And they also had them test their saliva before and after this experiment, and what they noticed is that after they tested about their testosterone levels and their cortisol levels, they had an increase in the right amounts of hormones, literally after 2 minutes of standing this way. Now, I'm saying this because I believe, and I've used this power pose in places and moments when I feel less confident. And what Amy says, we have a quote from her today, our bodies change our minds, and our minds change our behavior, and our behavior changes our outcomes, right? So we can't ignore that stance of beingness. And I'm suggesting that not only must we listen in quiet to our inner voice, not only must we have the courage then to follow that inner voice forward, we have to do things that help us feel the confidence to take the risk to really be ourselves. To take the risk to be our authentic self. So what if we prayed like that? What if before a big meeting, before we talked to somebody, we stood like that? 2 minutes is all it takes. Before your next date, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, stand like that. Before some big endeavor, a difficult conversation, grab not only the intentionality that rises from the depth of us, but grab the confidence that can come with that. One of my beloved poets, Rumi, says, "Though we seem to be sleeping, there is an inner wakefulness that directs the dream and will eventually startle us back to the truth of who we are." We must startle ourselves back to the truth of who we are. So today, as we complete this part of our service, I'm inviting anyone who would like to, as I pray us out, to stand in the power pose with me, especially those practitioners and ministers. So you have your legs just a little bit, even with your hips, and your hands on your hips, and let us just close our eyes and just feel the power within us. This pose that we are in is reflective of the divine light and love that we are claiming and owning for ourselves this day. I accept and affirm that as we stand together in this powerful moment, that divine light, that divine love that is God, that is the source, is expressing through all of creation. And its will is expression, full out expression of beingness of all of creation. And this day, we recognize that we are that which it is that which we are, and that we exist in and as the oneness, the wholeness, the love, the light, the creativity, and the joy that is this power and presence. We are the abundance, we are the peace, we are the life itself. And we are open and receptive, and in this moment, gaining and accessing in every level of our being the total confidence of the divine self that is us. Our authentic voice is awakened now. We hear it more clearly than ever, and we walk forward from this beautiful time of spiritual community absolutely anchored in the truth of who we are, absolutely able and willing to hear the deepest guidance of our innermost self in its beautiful alchemy of connectedness with the divine presence that is the power and the source and the force of this good, and we are the conduit. We are the place through which God lives its life out, clearly, joyously, magnificently. And that pathway of awareness is open, accessible, clear. And we release any urge or need to hit the snooze alarm. Instead, we hear the alarm of life itself calling us forward, and we simply say yes to it. We let ourselves be in the flow of it, for we are it. What a joy it is to feel this feeling, not only in our heart and soul, yet today also in our body temple. We are anchored in this truth right here and right now, and I release this prayer into the action of that universal law that makes it so. I release this prayer into the biochemistry of our beingness, which brings it forth. It is done, I let it be, and so it is. Amen. So it is.